The pain in my chest returned, like a small, rusty saw slowly pulling at my lung tissue, each breath bringing a piercing ache. I curled up on the hospital bed, an indwelling needle stuck in the back of my hand, the cold liquid dripping into my veins, but the chill that seeped out of my bones could not be dispelled. On the bedside table lay the diagnosis the doctor had just brought, the words late-stage lung cancer in black and white staring straight at me like 4 eyes. The nurse had just left, patting my hand before she did, her voice very soft. "Still can't reach your family, it's best to have someone with you in this situation." I tugged at the corners of my mouth, trying to smile, but the muscles in my cheeks were so stiff that I only managed to force out an expression that was uglier than crying. Could I reach him? How could I not reach him? I have his number saved in my phone. And I've called it no less than 30 times since I was admitted to the hospital. Either it's a busy signal, or he answers and hangs up after a few words, and then eventually, he just doesn't answer at all. After the nurse left, I was alone in the ward. So quiet that I could hear the sound of the wind blowing through the leaves outside the window, and my own increasingly heavy breathing. When the pain became too much to bear, I would think of when we were first together, back then. When I had a cold and fever, he would stay by my bedside all night without sleeping, checking my forehead every half hour, and keeping the ginger tea he had brewed warm in a thermos, blowing it cool before handing it to my lips. Back then, he always said, "Don't be afraid, I'm here." But when did things start to change? Probably after he got promoted. He had more and more social engagements, came home later and later, and the perfume scent on him changed again and again. I asked him about it. And he said I was being petty, that social niceties in the workplace were unavoidable, and that if I kept being so suspicious, he wouldn't be able to stay with me. Back then, I was still holding on to hope, thinking he was just stressed and would be fine after this period. I took over all the household chores, preparing him stomach-friendly meals every day with different recipes. When he came home late, I would leave the living room light on to wait for him. When he was drunk and vomiting everywhere, I stayed by his side, wiping his face and hands, but the more I did, the more impatient he became, saying I was meddling too much, saying the smell of cooking on me disgusted him. This cough was severe. At first, I thought it was just a seasonal cold and bought some medicine myself, but when I started coughing so badly that I couldn't sleep at night and there was blood in my phlegm, I panicked and went to the hospital for a checkup. When I received the diagnosis, my legs went weak and I almost fell in the hospital hallway. My first thought was to call him. That day I dialed his number, and it rang for a long time before he answered. The background was noisy, with women laughing. He said impatiently, "What is it? I'm busy." The hand holding my phone is shaking, and my voice trembles. "I'm at the hospital. The test results are out, and the doctor says the situation isn't good. Can you come here?" He chuckled. The sound like an ice pick piercing my heart. He said, "Faking illness again. Are we? How many times have I told you, stop using these tricks to force me home? Is it amusing? I'm busy with business deals. I don't have time to play games with you." I was so anxious that tears came to my eyes, and I shouted into the phone, "I'm not faking, it's late-stage lung cancer. The doctor said to have a family member come over to sign." He paused for a moment, then an even colder voice came through. "Lung cancer, why don't you just say you're about to die? Let me tell you, don't pull this kind of stunt with me. I won't fall for it. If you're really capable, then don't call me. Deal with it yourself. I'll come see you when you're dead, so I don't have to be bothered by you now." Beep, beep, beep. The busy signal of the hung-up phone was particularly jarring in the silent hospital room. I gripped the phone, my knuckles white from the force, tears falling like beads from a broken string. Splattering on the blanket, creating small, damp patches, the pain in my chest suddenly intensified, and I bent over, coughing violently, until tears and mucus were mixed together. Finally, I spat a mouthful of phlegm into a tissue, the bright red bloodstains particularly striking. It took me a long while to slowly straighten up and reach out to wipe away my tears. The sky outside the window was gradually darkening, and the lights in the hospital room were on. But the warm yellow light couldn't reach into my heart. I thought of the 5 years we were together, of giving up a good job in another city for him, of quitting my favorite job to be a full-time housewife at home to take care of his elderly mother, of saving money to buy him branded suits. While I couldn't bear to buy myself even a t-shirt costing more than 100 yuan, back then, he was poor, and I ate instant noodles with him and lived in the basement. He said that when he became successful, he would definitely give me a good life. I believed it, I really believed it, but he became successful, and the person by his side was no longer me. I took out my phone, flipped to the mom number in my contacts, and hesitated for a long time before not dialing it. My parents are old and in poor health. If I tell them I have terminal cancer, they definitely won't be able to handle it. I can't let them worry about me anymore. When the nurse came in to change the 4-drip, she saw my red eyes and sighed, "Girl, still haven't been able to contact your family. Should I try calling again for you?" I shook my head, my voice hoarse. "No need, he's busy, probably doesn't have time." The nurse didn't say anything more, just pulled my blanket up and said softly, "Press the call button if you need anything. Don't try to endure it." After the nurse left, I picked up my phone and flipped to his WeChat. Our chat history stopped 3 days ago when I asked him if he would come home for dinner, and he didn't reply. I opened the chat box, wanting to type something to him, but I typed and deleted and typed, and in the end, I said nothing, just changed his note from husband to his full name. I flipped to another chat box. It was my lawyer friend. We've known each other for many years, and she's always been pessimistic about my relationship with him, always saying he's too utilitarian and unreliable. I sent her a message, "Are you free? I want to make a will." She replied quickly, "Why do you suddenly want to make a will? What happened?" I looked at the screen, and tears fell again. "I have terminal lung cancer, and I don't have much time left. Some things have to be arranged." There was a long silence on the other end before a message came. "Which hospital are you in? I'll come over now." I sent the hospital address and put down my phone. Leaning against the headboard, the pain in my chest seemed to have lessened, probably because it had become numb. I looked at the ceiling, and my mind flashed back to the bits and pieces of the past 5 years like a movie. There were sweet moments, arguments, expectations, and disappointments. Looking back now, those sweet moments were like sugar-coated poison. After the sweetness, all that remained was bone-deep pain. I remembered what he had just said, "I'll come see you after you die." Fine, then let him see me after I die. But by then, all he'll see is a cold corpse. I want to see if he'll regret it then, if he'll be sad. Footsteps echoed in the hallway, growing closer and closer. And then the hospital room door was pushed open. My lawyer friend walked in carrying a bag. When she saw me, her eyes immediately turned red. She hurried to the bedside, took my hand, and said, "Silly girl, such a big thing. Why didn't you say so sooner?" Her hand was very warm, much warmer than the liquid in the 4-line. I leaned on her shoulder, and the emotions I had suppressed for so long finally burst out, and I cried loudly. I didn't have to pretend to be strong anymore. I didn't have to worry about others being concerned. I was just a person who was about to die, and I also wanted someone to rely on. She patted my back and gently comforted me. "Cry. It will be better if you cry it out. It's okay, I'm here. I will help you, whether it's a will or something else. I will help you arrange everything clearly." I cried for a long time until I was too tired to cry, and then I slowly stopped my tears. She took out paper and pen from her bag and sat by the bed. "Tell me what you're thinking. How should the property be distributed?" I wiped away my tears, my eyes becoming firm. In this life, I lived for him for 5 years. And in these last few days, I want to live for myself, for my parents. As for him, doesn't he want to wait until I die to see me? Then I'll let him see what he gave up, what he lost. Doesn't he value money? Then I just won't let him get a single penny. I looked into my lawyer friend's eyes and said, word by word, "The house under my name was bought before my marriage, and it will be left to my parents. Part of the savings I have will be given to my parents as pension money, and the rest will be donated to charity, and my housing fund and pension, donate them all too. As for him, we didn't get a marriage certificate. He won't get anything." The lawyer friend nodded, noting it down on paper. "Okay, I understand. Is there anything else you require? For example, do you want to leave something for that man?" I sneered. "Leave something for him? Leave what? Leave my ashes for him to worship. No need, he doesn't deserve it. I want to see what kind of expression he'll have when he finds out I've donated everything and haven't left him a single penny. My lawyer friend sighed. You're just doing this out of spite. But that's okay, it'll help you vent. Don't worry, I'll make sure the will is airtight, guaranteeing he won't get a single penny. We talked for a long time, until late at night. Before she left, before leaving, she bought me porridge, watched me take a few sips, and gave the nurse a few instructions before leaving with peace of mind. The ward returned to silence. I lay in bed, wide awake. The pain in my chest started to flare up again. But I wasn't afraid anymore. I've arranged everything. And now I'm just waiting to see his retribution. I picked up my phone, took one last look at his number, and then blacklisted him. From now on, he won't be able to contact me again. Doesn't he want freedom? I'll give him freedom. Doesn't he want to wait until I die to see me? Then I'll grant him that wish. The sky outside the window is about to dawn, and a hint of fishbelly white appears in the east. I close my eyes, a cold smile creeping onto my lips. Ethan, just you wait. You'll pay for what you owe me someday, even if I'm gone. I'll make sure you live in regret for the rest of your life. After my lawyer friend left, I deliberately dimmed the lights in the ward, the warm yellow light hitting the ceiling, reflecting a circle of blurred halo. I lay in bed, the liquid in the 4 tubes still dripping at a steady pace, the cold feeling spreading from the back of my hand to my arm, but the ruthlessness in my heart made me forget the cold. I counted the sound of the drops, 1, 2, and unconsciously felt a little sleepy. I didn't sleep soundly this time. My dream was full of old things. One moment we were eating instant noodles with him in the basement, and he gave me the only egg. The next moment it was the day he was promoted, and he hugged me and cried that he had finally made it. Finally, the picture suddenly turned into his indifferent face, saying, "I'll come to see you after you die." I suddenly opened my eyes, and the pain in my chest surged like a tide, more violently than ever before. I wanted to press the call button, but my hand was too heavy to lift, so I could only open my mouth and gasp for breath, each breath feeling like I was coughing up my lungs. The instruments in the ward began to emit a piercing alarm, and red lights flashed on the walls. Soon, nurses and doctors rushed in, swarming around the bed, busy with all kinds of instruments and doctors' instructions mixed together. But I felt farther and farther away, and the figures in front of me gradually blurred. The last thing I saw was the nurse anxiously holding her phone, calling and shouting, "Have you contacted the family? The patient is in critical condition." I wanted to tell her to stop calling, "He won't come," but I couldn't make a sound. In the last second before my consciousness faded, I had only one thought in my mind: "Ethan, I can't wait for you to see me. But don't worry, I will make you keep your promise." When I felt something again, I was floating in mid-air, looking down at myself covered with a white sheet on the hospital bed. The ward was very quiet. The alarm had stopped, the doctors and nurses were gone. And only my lawyer friend was sitting by the bed, her head buried in her knees, her shoulders shaking as she cried. I wanted to pat her shoulder to comfort her, but my hand went right through, and then I realized that I was already dead. There was no pain as I had imagined, and no black and white impermanence. Just floating lightly, watching my own funeral prelude like an outsider. My lawyer friend cried for a while, wiped away her tears, took out her phone, hesitated for a long time, and finally dialed the number I had blacklisted. I was right next to her, and I could clearly hear the busy signal on the phone, which rang more than 10 times before it was answered. His voice was lazy with sleepiness, and a little impatient. "Who is it? Calling in the middle of the night? Can't a person sleep?" The lawyer friend took a deep breath. His voice tearful but firm. "I am her lawyer. She is gone. Just half an hour ago, after all rescue attempts failed. She is now in the hospital morgue, and according to her wishes, you need to be notified." There was silence on his end for a few seconds, then came a sneering laugh. Exactly the same tone as in the phone call during the day. "Don't pull this on me. She's making you help her act again. Right, I'm telling you, I'm not falling for it. Don't even think about me going back." The lawyer friend was so angry his voice trembled. "Ethan, are you even human? She's already gone, end-stage lung cancer. The doctor issued several critical condition notices. She called you before she died, and you said she was faking it, that you'd come see her after she died. Now she's really dead. Are you coming or not? This time, his side was completely silent. Not even the sound of breathing could be heard. After a long while, his slightly panicked voice came. What did you say? She's really dead, not faking. Would I joke with you about something like this? I'll send the address to your phone. It's up to you whether you come or not. After saying that, my lawyer friend hung up the phone and couldn't help but cry, muttering, "Silly girl, how could you just leave like this?" I floated beside him, feeling nothing. Neither sad nor angry, as if watching a stranger's farce. I knew he would come. He cared so much about his image that, even if he had to fake it, he would put on a show of being heartbroken. I wanted to see what expression he would have when he saw my cold body. About 40 minutes later, there were hurried footsteps in the hallway, and a woman's voice complaining, "Why are we coming to the hospital so late? What's going on? She was fine just now. How could she suddenly die? It's Vanessa. I've seen her. Last time I went to his company to deliver documents, I saw her coming out of the elevator with her arm around his. She was dressed to the nines and looked at me with a provocative gaze. At that time, he explained to me that she was just a colleague. Now it seems that they had already been hooking up. Fine, let her come and see how the man she snatched treats me." The hospital room door was pushed open, and Ethan rushed in. With Vanessa following behind, her face still showing impatience. He saw me on the bed covered with a white sheet at a glance. His footsteps stopped abruptly, and his face turned pale instantly. The panic and impatience from just now were all gone, leaving only shock. The lawyer friend stood up, coldly looking at him. "You're here, she's right there. Didn't you say you'd wait until she died to come see her? You can see her now." He ignored his lawyer friend and Vanessa beside him, walking towards the hospital bed step by step, each step as heavy as lead. He reached out to the white cloth, hesitated for a long time, and then tremblingly lifted it. When he saw my face, he suddenly took a step back, hitting the bedside table behind him, and the water glass on it fell to the ground, shattering into several pieces. I floated in front of him, clearly seeing his expression. His eyes were wide, his pupils contracted, his lips trembled. But he couldn't say a word. Tears fell unexpectedly, hitting the shards of glass on the ground, making a crisp sound. This was the first time in the 5 years I had known him that I saw him cry so disheveled. Vanessa came over and tugged at his arm. "Feigning, what's wrong with you? This is that woman who pretended to be sick. She's dead, so what's there to cry about? Let's go back. It's so gloomy here." Her words were like a bucket of cold water, dousing Ethan's head. He spun around abruptly, his eyes fixed on Vanessa with a fierce look, his voice as hoarse as sandpaper grinding. "You shut up, get out." Vanessa was startled by him and said aggrievedly, "Feigning, I'm doing this for your own good. She's already dead. Why are you arguing with a dead person? I told you to get out," Ethan roared, his voice filled with unprecedented anger. "If you dare say another word about her, I won't be polite with you." Vanessa had probably never seen him so angry. She was so scared that her face changed. She stamped her foot and ran out crying. In the ward, there were only 3 of us left. Oh no, 2 living people, 1 dead person, and my floating soul. Ethan slowly squatted down, picking up the glass shards from the floor, not even noticing when his finger was cut. Blood dripped onto the floor, mixing with my bloodstains. He walked to the bedside, reaching out to touch my face, but stopped an inch away from my skin. In the end, he just gently brushed my hair, just like he used to do when I was sick. "I'm sorry," he finally said, his voice choked with sobs. "I thought you were pretending. I thought you just wanted me to come home. I didn't mean to. I really didn't know you were so sick." I floated in front of him, looking at him coldly. "Sorry, what's the use of saying sorry now, when I was lying in the hospital bed in agony? Where were you when I cried and begged you to come and see me? Where were you when you were holding other women and living it up? Where were you? Can a single 'I'm sorry' offset all your indifference and cruelty?" He sat on the chair by the bed, rambling on about the past, from the first time we met, to the days of eating instant noodles together, to when he got promoted. He said he actually knew I had done a lot for him, knew I had given up a good job, knew how hard I worked taking care of his mother, but he just couldn't control himself, seeing everyone around him so glamorous. He just wanted to climb higher, make more money, and make others look up to him. I thought we had so much more time, I was going to make a bit more money, and then would really live the good life. I wouldn't socialize with those people anymore. He lay by the bed, his shoulders shaking violently. Why didn't I realize you'd leave so soon? Why didn't you wait for me? The lawyer friend watched from the side, sighed, and said nothing, but I felt no emotion in my heart, and even found it a bit laughable. He's always like this, only cherishing things after they're lost, only regretting when it's too late to turn back. But in this world, the cheapest thing is regret. And the most useless thing is a belated apology. Later, the doctor came in and told him about the procedures for handling the funeral arrangements. He listened mechanically, nodding and signing, his fingers still trembling. After signing, he told the doctor that he wanted to be alone for a while longer. The lawyer friend glanced at my corpse, then looked at him, shook his head, and turned around to leave. Only the two of us were left in the ward, or rather, I was floating, and he was sitting. Along with me, covered in a white sheet on the bed. He tucked the white sheet back in, then sat on the chair beside the bed, watching the bed motionlessly, like a statue. The sky outside the window slowly brightened, and the sun shone through the window, falling on him. But he didn't seem to feel the warmth, his face still pale. I just stayed with him like that, from late at night until dawn. He didn't cry or speak again, just sat there quietly, his eyes fixed on the bed, as if that would bring me back to life. I saw the wound on the back of his hand was still bleeding, congealing into a dark red scab, but he didn't care at all. As dawn broke, the morgue workers arrived to transport my corpse. They lifted the white sheet, and as they prepared to lift the bed, Ethan suddenly stood up and stopped them. "Wait," the staff were taken aback. "Sir, is there anything wrong?" He looked at my face, his eyes filled with reluctance and pain. His lips moved, but he didn't say anything. In the end, he just waved his hand and said, "It's nothing. You, be careful." Watching my corpse being carried away, he followed behind, step by step, towards the morgue. The morgue was in the basement of the hospital, gloomy and chilling. The moment the staff put me in the refrigerated cabinet and closed the door, I saw Ethan sway, almost falling. Coming out of the morgue, he didn't leave but leaned against the wall in the corridor. He took out a cigarette pack, wanting to smoke, but found his hand shaking continuously, unable to light the lighter after several tries. Finally, he threw the cigarette pack and lighter on the ground, stomping on them fiercely, cursing, "Bastard, Ethan, you're a bastard." I floated beside him, watching his breakdown, and finally felt a hint of satisfaction. "This is just the beginning, Ethan. This is just the beginning of your retribution. Didn't you want to wait until I died to come and see? Now you see. And next, I'll let you know that in losing me, you've lost not just someone who loved you, but everything you valued most." He leaned against the wall outside the morgue, standing motionless from dawn till dusk. Passing medical staff and family members cast strange glances at him, but he didn't seem to notice. I knew he was regretting, blaming himself, but none of that could bring me back to life. Just like he said back then, he finally came to see me, but I was already a cold corpse, never to smile at him again, never to cook for him again, never to wait for him to come home again. As it got dark, his lawyer friend arrived. Seeing him still standing there, he frowned and said, "What are you still doing here? The funeral arrangements require a family member's signature. I've already notified her parents. They should be here tomorrow. If you have any conscience left, don't show your face in front of them again, to spare them further grief." He slowly raised his head, his eyes bloodshot, his voice hoarse and barely audible. "Her will, what does it say?" The lawyer friend sneered. "You have the nerve to ask about the will. Her belongings have nothing to do with you. I'll read the will in front of her parents when they arrive. You should leave now, before her parents get here and get even more upset seeing you." He didn't speak again, but just took a deep look in the direction of the morgue, then dragged his heavy steps and slowly walked out. I floated behind him, watching his back. And for the first time, I felt that this man who I once loved to the core was so embarrassed and so pitiful, but I didn't feel sorry for him at all. Because all of this was his own doing. Back in the ward, My lawyer friend was packing my things, just some simple clothes and daily necessities. She picked up a photo frame. Inside was a picture of him and me when we had just gotten together. We were smiling happily in the photo. She sighed and put the photo frame into her bag. Silly girl. Don't be so silly in the next life. Find someone who truly loves you. I floated by her side, watching her carefully pack my things, and my heart felt warm. In this life, I didn't misjudge anyone. Although I had some unfortunate encounters, I have such good friends and parents who love me, so it's not a wasted life. As for Ethan, his hard days have just begun. I will keep watching him pay the most painful price for his indifference and cruelty. My parents arrived at the hospital at noon the next day. The moment the old couple got off the train, they went straight to the ward. When they saw my lawyer friend, my mom's legs went weak and she almost fell. My dad supported her, but his hands were also shaking uncontrollably. I floated beside them, wanting to help but unable to, and could only watch helplessly as my mom cried and fainted next to my corpse. My heart ached like it was being pricked with needles. The doctor rushed over to give my mom acupressure on her philtrum, and it took a long time for her to come around. The first thing she said when she woke up was, "My daughter. How could you just leave like this? How are your parents supposed to live without you?" My dad squatted in the corner, his back to everyone, his shoulders shaking violently. I knew he was secretly wiping away tears. I've been by their side for so many years and have never seen my usually strong dad so fragile. The lawyer friend helped to comfort my parents while explaining my condition and funeral arrangements to them. As my dad listened, he suddenly stood up, his eyes red, and asked, "Where's Ethan? Where was he when my daughter passed away?" The lawyer friend sighed and recounted the phone call that day and Ethan's visit to the hospital. My dad was trembling with anger and picked up the water glass next to him, wanting to smash it, but my mom stopped him. "Old Chen, our daughter is gone. What's the use of smashing things?" Just then, the hospital room door was pushed open. Ethan stood at the door, dressed in all black, his eyes red and swollen, with stubble on his chin. Looking much more haggard, he was carrying a thermos, and when he saw my parents, he paused, then slowly walked over and said softly, "Uncle, Auntie, I'm sorry." When my dad saw him, his anger flared up immediately. He rushed at him, ready to hit him, but the nurses nearby stopped him. My dad pointed at his nose and yelled, "You bastard! My daughter was so good to you, and you treated her like this. She was so sick, and you wouldn't answer her calls, saying she was faking it. Now that she's dead, what are you here for? Get out. My daughter doesn't need you to come and see her." Ethan lowered his head, letting my dad scold him, not saying a word, only his shoulders twitching incessantly. My mom wiped away her tears and said, "Xiao Chen, our daughter has been with you for 5 years. And we've seen how much suffering she's endured. We didn't agree with you two being together at first, but she insisted on being with you, saying you were capable and good to her. But is this how you treat her? Before she died, the person she wanted to see the most was you." Ethan suddenly knelt down and kowtowed heavily on the ground with a thump. "Uncle, Auntie, it's all my fault. I'm the one who let her down. Let you down. I will definitely take good care of you in the future, just like taking care of my own parents, to make up for my mistakes." I floated beside him and sneered, "What's the use of saying this now? Why didn't I see him being filial when I was alive?" My dad snorted, "We don't need you to take care of us. Leave. Don't ever appear in front of us again." Ethan wanted to say something, but his lawyer friend came over and said, "Ethan, you should go back first. Uncle and Aunt are emotionally unstable right now. We can talk about anything after the funeral is over." Ethan looked at my parents, then at my corpse, and finally stood up and slowly walked out. As he left, I saw him wipe away a tear. For the next 2 days, Ethan came to the hospital every day with all sorts of tonics and food, wanting to apologize to my parents, but they completely ignored him, telling him to take the things away each time. He didn't get angry. And after putting down the things, he helped with all the arrangements, carrying the stretcher, contacting the funeral home, doing all the hardest and dirtiest work, without a single complaint on his face. I know what he's trying to do. He's trying to make amends in this way, hoping my parents will forgive him, and even more so, hoping they'll be lenient on the inheritance. He must think that after being with me for 5 years, even without a marriage certificate, he should be entitled to a share of my assets, especially my apartment in the city center, which is worth a lot now. I've seen through his intentions long ago. The day after the funeral, a lawyer friend called my parents and Ethan to the house I used to live in, to read the will. My parents sat on the sofa, their eyes still red and swollen. Ethan sat in the chair across from them, his hands clasped tightly, looking a little nervous. I floated in the center of the living room, watching all of this, my heart full of anticipation. I wanted to see what kind of expression he would have when he heard the contents of the will. The lawyer friend took out the will, cleared his throat, and began to read. I, XXX, being terminally ill with lung cancer and knowing my days are numbered, hereby make this will to allocate my assets as follows. 1. The property located in XX residential area, which I purchased in full before marriage, shall be jointly owned by my father, XXX, and my mother, XXX. 2. The total deposit under my name is XX yuan, of which XX yuan shall be given to my parents as pension expenses, and the remaining XX yuan shall be donated to the XX Charitable Foundation to help cancer patients. 3. The total amount of the Housing Provident Fund and pension is XX yuan, all of which shall be donated to the XX Nursing Home. 4. A vehicle under my name shall be given to my friend XXX, lawyer friend's name, as a reward for his many years of help and handling of my affairs. 5. The remaining personal belongings shall be disposed of by my parents. After the lawyer friend finished reading, the living room was silent. My parents didn't speak, just held hands, and tears fell again. Ethan's face turned pale instantly. He stood up suddenly, and said in a trembling voice, "Impossible, this is impossible. How could she donate all her property, and the house? We lived together for 5 years, how could she have bought it outright before marriage?" The lawyer friend looked at him coldly. "Ethan, I witnessed this will, and it has legal effect. The house was bought outright with her own savings and her parents' assistance before the marriage, and only her name is on the property certificate. It has nothing to do with you. I am already processing the donation procedures for the Deposits and Housing Provident Fund, and the relevant certificates are all here." As she spoke, she took out the property certificate and deposit certificate and placed them on the table. Ethan rushed over, picked up the property certificate, and looked at it back and forth, his fingers turning white from the force. He suddenly raised his head and stared at the lawyer friend. "She did it on purpose. She deliberately didn't leave me a penny. She hates me, doesn't she?" I floated in front of him, sneering inwardly. "You're right, I'm doing this on purpose. I want you to know that I won't give you a single cent of the money you value most. Aren't you trying to get rich off me? I'm going to make sure you end up with nothing." The lawyer friend stood up, looking down at him condescendingly. "Why didn't she leave it to you? Don't you know the reason in your heart? When she was sick, you didn't care about her, before she died. She begged you to come and see her, but you said she was pretending to be sick. After she left, you came to repent hypocritically. Why should she leave you any property? Do you deserve it? I was with her for 5 years. 5 years, Ethan roared. We ate instant noodles together, lived in the basement, and she was there when I was working hard. We went through those hard times together. How could she do this to me?" My dad suddenly spoke, his voice icy. "Stuck it out together. My daughter gave up a secure job in another city to live in a basement with you, eating instant noodles. That's because she loved you. But what about you? You became successful and forgot how good she was to you. You kept another woman outside and treated her with cold violence, ignoring her when she was sick. Those hard days, my daughter endured them alone. It had nothing to do with you." My mom chimed in. "Before my daughter passed away, she told her lawyer that her assets should go to deserving people. A heartless wretch like you doesn't deserve to get anything from her." Ethan's face turned pale, then white, and he opened his mouth, but couldn't utter a word of rebuttal. He probably didn't expect my parents to be so merciless, and even more so that I would arrange the property so thoroughly, not leaving him a single penny. He slumped in the chair, holding his head in his hands, muttering, "Impossible. This is impossible." The lawyer friend handed a copy of the will to my parents and Ethan, and said, "This will is legal and valid. And all property will be distributed according to the will. Ethan, if you have any objections to the will, you can sue in court, but I advise you not to waste your effort. All the evidence is sufficient. You won't win. Ethan held the copy of the will, his hands trembling uncontrollably, tears falling onto the paper, blurring the words. He looked up at my parents. His voice choked with sobs, and said, "Uncle, Auntie, I know I was wrong. I really know I was wrong. I will definitely change in the future. I will take good care of you. Please talk to the lawyer and ask her to leave the house to me. Okay, I just want this house. It's the place where she and I lived together." My dad snorted coldly. "This house is the result of my daughter's hard work. She bought it before she got married. It has nothing to do with you. If you really miss the days you spent with her, then stop trying to get your hands on this house. Remember how good she was to you, and don't do anything that would hurt her again." Ethan wanted to plead further, but his lawyer friend stopped him. "Ethan, I've told you everything I needed to say. It's no use if you keep pestering them. Your aunt and uncle are old and just lost their daughter. They need to rest. You should leave first." Ethan looked at my parents in different expressions and then at the will in his hand. Knowing that begging would be useless, he slowly stood up and dragged his heavy feet out. As he reached the door, he turned back to look at the living room, his eyes filled with unwillingness and pain. I floated behind him, watching his back, my heart filled with pleasure. This is the end for valuing money, Ethan. The thing you wanted most, I just wouldn't give it to you. After he left, my mother hugged my father and cried, "Old Chen, our daughter is too silly. Donating so much money without even enjoying it herself." My father patted her back and said, "Our daughter did the right thing. That money was earned by her, and she can distribute it however she wants. By donating it, she's helping more people, and that's also accumulating good karma." A lawyer friend also said, "Auntie, don't be sad. When she made her will, she told me that she had no regrets in this life, except that she was sorry for you. She left the house and a portion of her savings to you so that you could have a good retirement and not worry about her. The rest of the money is being donated to give people with cancer like her better treatment, so they don't end up with no one to take care of them like she did." I floated beside them, tears streaming down my face. "Mom and Dad, I'm sorry. Your daughter is unfilial and can't be there to take care of you in your old age, but don't worry, I've arranged everything. My lawyer friend will help take care of you, and the money is enough for you to live comfortably in your later years. Take good care of yourselves from now on, and don't be sad for me anymore." In the following days, my lawyer friend was busy with the inheritance donation procedures. While my parents were packing my things, I joined them, looking at my old photos, the scarf I knitted for Ethan, and the certificate of honor from the company when I quit my job, and I was filled with emotions. Those days that I once thought were unforgettable now seem like fleeting clouds. Ethan hadn't been seen since the day he walked out of the house. Later, I floated near his company and saw that he was distracted at work, often staring at the computer blankly. He would even lose focus during meetings and was criticized by his boss in public several times. I knew he was feeling uncomfortable, both regretful and unwilling to accept it, but who could he blame? He could only blame himself for being too indifferent and valuing money too much, only cherishing things after losing them. One day, I floated to where he lived and saw Vanessa arguing with him. Vanessa pointed at his nose and yelled, "Ethan, are you stupid? She's dead, and you didn't get a single penny. I've been with you for so long. Where are the bags and jewelry you promised to buy me? You don't even have a stable job now. How are you going to support me?" Ethan sat on the sofa with a gloomy expression. "Stop it, I'm annoyed right now, annoyed. I'm even more annoyed," Vanessa shouted. "I was with you in the first place because I thought you were rich and capable, but now, it's all gone wrong. I haven't gotten any money, and I'm about to lose my job. What's the point of me being with you?" Ethan stood up abruptly and pointed at the door. "If you think it's pointless, then get out. I didn't beg you to be with me." Vanessa was stunned for a moment, probably not expecting him to say that. Then, she started to cry. "Ethan, you're actually telling me to get out. Have you forgotten how you pursued me in the beginning? Now let me tell you, I can leave, but you have to give me a breakup fee, or I'll go to your company and make a scene. Ruining your reputation. Ethan's face turned even more unpleasant as he glared at Vanessa, his eyes filled with ferocity. I floated beside them, watching them tear each other apart. And sneered inwardly, "Ethan, this is the woman you chose after giving up on me. Did you think she was sincere towards you? She's only with you for your money. Now that you're broke, she's naturally showing her true colors. I know this is just the beginning. The inheritance drama was just the first lesson for you. More painful things await you. Aren't you very attached to your work and your reputation? I'll make you lose them bit by bit. Let you taste the bitterness of being abandoned by everyone, and let you know that losing me was the worst decision you've ever made in your life." I floated out of Ethan's apartment and came to the park I used to frequent. The sun shone on me, warm and comforting. I watched the elderly people strolling and the children playing in the park, and my heart suddenly became very calm. Before, I always thought about living a good life with Ethan, giving everything for him. But I forgot to love myself and cherish the people around me. Now that I am dead, I don't regret my decision. Donating the money can help more people, and it can be regarded as my last contribution to this world. Ethan, your retribution has only just begun. I will be watching you pay the most painful price for what you have done. As for me, it's time to let go of the past and spend quality time with my parents, watching them enjoy their twilight years. As for those unpleasant people and things, let them fade away with the wind." Vanessa's threat to make a scene at the company felt like a thorn in Ethan's side. I floated nearby, clearly seeing his face change from vicious to flustered. What he valued most was his position and reputation in the company. If Vanessa really made a scene at the company, the face he had worked so hard to earn would be completely lost. Ethan stared at Vanessa and softened his tone. "Don't make a fuss. I know you've been feeling wronged lately. When I get through this and the project payment is settled, I'll buy you a bag and jewelry, okay?" Vanessa crossed her arms and rolled her eyes. "Get through this period. How long am I supposed to wait for you to get through it? You said you'd buy it for me when the project funds came in last time. But what happened? I didn't see the money, and you became a pauper instead. Ethan, let me tell you, you have to give me a definite answer this time. Either give me the money now, or I'll go to your company to find your boss tomorrow." "How dare you?" Ethan roared, wanting to explode again, but seeing Vanessa's desperate look, he suppressed his anger. He ruffled his hair irritably. "I really don't have any money right now. Where do you want me to get the money for you?" "I don't care." Vanessa walked to the sofa, picked up her bag. "I'll give you 3 days. If I don't see the money after 3 days, you can just wait to be ruined." After speaking, she slammed the door and left, leaving Ethan alone in the living room, stomping his feet in anger. I floated in the center of the living room, watching Ethan's exasperated appearance, and my heart blossomed with joy. "This is the consequence of your betrayal, Ethan. The woman you treasured is actually just someone who only cares about money. You thought you had found someone better, but little did you know you were just inviting disaster upon yourself." For the next 3 days, Ethan was in a state of utter frustration. He called friends everywhere to borrow money. But those who used to be so friendly with him either said they were short on cash or simply didn't answer his calls. I stayed by his side, listening to him humbly begging others, watching him being rejected time and time again. And I couldn't help but feel a sense of satisfaction. Back when he was successful, he would reject his friends' requests for money without even batting an eye. Now that it was his turn to ask for help, he finally understood the fickleness of human relationships. On the afternoon of the 3rd day, Vanessa indeed came. I floated downstairs and saw her wearing an eye-catching red dress, carrying a small bag, and walking upstairs with the sound of her high heels clack, clack, clack. When she got to Ethan's door, she didn't knock, but opened the door directly with a key. It seemed Ethan had already given her the key to his place. He really couldn't wait to put a green hat on me. Vanessa burst in, yelling, "Ethan, where's the money? Where's the money I asked for?" Ethan came out of the bedroom, his face pale. "I didn't borrow any money. Can you give me a few more days, please? Grace period. I've already given you a 3-day grace period." Vanessa walked up to him, pointed at his nose, and scolded, "Ethan, are you trying to play me? I'm telling you, if you don't give me the money today, I'm going to your company right now." Don't go, Ethan quickly grabbed her. I'm really trying to figure things out, just wait a little longer, until I finish this project and get the bonus. Then I'll give it to you. Vanessa shook off his hand. Wait until you get the bonus. Who knows if you can even make this project work? Last time you said that project would make big money, but what happened? It was all for nothing. Let me tell you, I don't have time to waste with you. The two argued more and more fiercely, their voices so loud that the entire corridor could hear them. Neighbors opened their doors one after another to peek out, pointing and gossiping. Ethan felt he was losing face, and pulled Vanessa into the house, saying, "Don't argue outside, let's go inside and talk." Vanessa pushed him away. "I'm not going in. I want everyone to see what kind of person Ethan is, a gold digger, a womanizer, and now he can't even come up with this little bit of money I have. When have I ever been a gold digger?" Ethan exclaimed. "When I was with you, I spent a lot of money on you, right? Which of your clothes and jewelry weren't bought by me? That was your choice," Vanessa roared. "Did you think I really liked you? If it wasn't for your money and the things you could buy me, I wouldn't be with a heartless person like you. Have you forgotten how you treated that dead woman? She was so sick, and you didn't care, spending all your time with me, indulging in pleasure. You're a cold-blooded animal." This sentence was like a sharp knife stabbing into Ethan's heart. His face turned ashen in an instant, and he suddenly raised his hand to hit Vanessa. I floated beside them, shocked, never expecting him to actually hit a woman. Vanessa was also taken aback, and then reacted. Grabbing his hand, "How dare you hit me, Ethan? You actually dare to hit me. I'm going to fight you." As she said that, she pounced on him, grabbing Ethan's arm, scratching and biting. Ethan was also anxious and wrestled with Vanessa. The two fought from the door to the living room, with cushions from the sofa thrown all over the floor and water glasses on the coffee table smashed, spilling water everywhere. The neighbors watched with great interest, and some even took out their phones to take pictures. I floated beside them, watching their ugly, and couldn't help but sneer in my heart. This is the love you betrayed me for, Ethan. It's truly ridiculous and pathetic. Just then, footsteps came from the stairwell, getting closer and closer. I looked up and saw my parents and lawyer friend. They were here to pack up some of my things left at Ethan's place. I had left a few thick winter clothes here before, and my mother had been thinking about them, wanting to take them back as a keepsake. Seeing this scene, my mother trembled with anger, pointing at Ethan and Vanessa. What are you doing?" Ethan and Vanessa froze and stopped fighting when they heard my mom's voice. Ethan's shirt was torn, and he had several scratches on his face. Vanessa's hair was messy, and her red dress was dirty. They both looked a mess. When they saw my parents, Ethan's face turned red instantly, and he lowered his head, not daring to speak. Vanessa was also a little flustered, but she quickly calmed down. She sized up my parents and said in a provocative tone, "Who are you? Why are you interfering in our business? Who are we?" My dad's voice trembled with anger. "We are Ethan's girlfriend's parents. You woman, ruining other people's relationships, and you still have the nerve to be here acting wild." "Girlfriend," Vanessa scoffed. "Are you talking about that dead woman? She's already dead. Why should she still occupy Ethan? Let me tell you, Ethan is my man now, and it has nothing to do with your dead daughter." "What did you say?" My mother was so angry she almost fainted, and my father rushed up to hit Vanessa, but was stopped by our lawyer friend. The lawyer friend coldly looked at Vanessa. "Miss, please watch your mouth. Speak no ill of the dead. Aren't you afraid of retribution for talking like that? Furthermore, destroying other people's relationships is already immoral behavior. You're still so arrogant now. Do you really think no one can deal with you?" Vanessa was probably intimidated by the lawyer friend's aura and took a step back, but still stubbornly said, "What am I afraid of? Ethan and I are truly in love. It's that woman's own fault for not being able to keep her man. What does it have to do with me? Truly in love," Ethan suddenly spoke, his voice hoarse. "You're with me for my money. And now that I have no money, you're making a scene with me. Is that what you call true love?" Vanessa was stunned for a moment, not expecting Ethan to say that. Immediately, she became angry and said, "Ethan, you bastard, how dare you say that to me? If you hadn't sweet-talked me and promised to buy me this and that, would I have been with you, now that you're broke? You want to dump me? No way. When did I ever want to dump you? You're the one who keeps asking me for money, Ethan roared. The two started arguing again, airing all their dirty laundry. Vanessa said that Ethan spent a lot of money on her, taking her out to dinner and buying her gifts, when he was pursuing her, and that Ethan had promised her that he would break up with me and marry her after that project was completed. Ethan said that Vanessa had been him, spending his money without a care. And now she was threatening to make trouble at his company. My parents stood beside them, their faces growing increasingly grim. My mother wiped away tears, muttering, "What a sin, what a sin. How could my daughter have fallen for such a person?" The lawyer friend took out his phone and recorded them, saying, "I've recorded everything you've said, Miss Lin. You are destroying other people's relationships and threatening Ethan to make trouble at his company, which already constitutes extortion. If Ethan pursues this, you will be held legally responsible." Vanessa's face changed instantly when she saw her lawyer friend filming, and she didn't dare to argue anymore. She glared at Ethan fiercely. "Ethan, you just wait, I'm not finished with you about this." After saying that, she picked up her bag and ran out in a disheveled manner. After Vanessa left, the living room was a mess. Ethan hung his head, not daring to look at my parents. My dad sighed, walked into the living room, and picked up my thick coat, the one I had saved up to buy for Ethan when I bought him a suit, and then bought for myself. It only cost a few tens of yuan, but I wore it for several years. My dad handed the coat to my mom, his voice heavy. "Let's go, we got what we needed, let's go back." My mom took the coat, felt the fabric, and tears fell again. "This is her favorite coat, she said it was warm to wear." Ethan suddenly said, "Uncle, Auntie, I'm sorry." My dad stopped, looked back at him. His eyes filled with disappointment. "Xiao Chen, you know how our daughter has been to you. We didn't agree with you being together before, but our daughter liked it, so we didn't say much. We only hoped you would treat her well. But what about you? You not only let her down but also turned your life into this. You should know what to do." After saying that, my dad helped my mom, and they walked out with their lawyer friend. I floated beside them and looked back at Ethan. He was still standing there, like a lost child, his face full of regret and helplessness. I didn't feel a trace of sympathy, only relief. "This is all your own doing, Ethan. You destroyed your own happiness with your own hands." Walking out of the building, my mom leaned on my dad's shoulder and cried, "Lao Chen, do you think our daughter would be sad if she were still here and saw him like this?" My dad patted her back. "If our daughter were still here, she wouldn't have gotten to this point with him. He became like this because of his own actions. It has nothing to do with our daughter. Our daughter is watching from heaven, and she will be relieved to see him get his retribution." A lawyer friend also said, "Auntie, don't think too much about it. Ethan's current situation is all his own doing. He didn't know how to cherish things, and only regrets it after losing them. It's too late. Let's go back quickly, it's getting dark." I floated beside them, watching my parents' haggard figures, and felt a pang in my heart. I really wanted to hug them, to tell them I was fine, and to stop them from being sad for me, but I couldn't. I could only watch them grieve, unable to do anything. Back home, my mom washed my coat and hung it on the balcony. She stood by the balcony, looking at the coat for a long time. I floated beside her, watching with her. The afterglow of the setting sun shone on the clothes, coating them with a layer of golden light, just like when I was wearing it, walking with Ethan in the sunset. But the sweetness of that time has now turned into bitter memories, and Ethan, ever since that fight with Vanessa, life has become even more difficult. Although Vanessa didn't make a scene at the company, she sent a recording of their argument to several of Ethan's colleagues and insinuated in her WeChat moments that Ethan was a scumbag, cheating people out of their feelings and money. Soon, Ethan became a laughingstock at the company, and his colleagues looked at him with strange eyes. Even the colleagues who used to have a good relationship with him deliberately avoided him. I floated to his company and saw him sitting alone at his desk, staring blankly at the computer. He used to be the center of attention, surrounded by a group of colleagues discussing work, but now he was all alone, and no one wanted to talk to him. The boss no longer valued him and handed over several important projects in his hands to others, giving him only some unimportant chores. Once, I saw him secretly making a phone call in the tea room, and from his tone, he was apologizing to Vanessa and begging her to stop making trouble. But Vanessa didn't buy it at all, scolded him on the phone, and demanded that he compensate her for her losses, or she would make a big scene. I floated beside him, sneering in my heart, "Ethan, are you scared now? When you were indifferent and ruthless to me, why didn't you think about today? When you were carousing with Vanessa, why didn't you think about today? This is your retribution, what you owe me, what you owe yourself. You have to pay it back bit by bit. I know that the Vanessa affair is just the beginning. Next, there are even more painful things waiting for him. The evidence of his workplace violations that I collected before my death should also come in handy. Doesn't he value his job very much? I will make him lose the job he is so proud of with his own hands and let him taste the feeling of falling from the clouds into the mud." I floated out of Ethan's company and came to the cafe we used to frequent. The layout inside is still the same as before, and the seat by the window is where I used to love to sit. I used to wait for him to get off work here, waiting to have dinner with him. Back then, I thought that as long as I waited patiently, I could wait for him to change his mind. Looking back now, I was really too silly. The traffic outside the window is heavy, people come and go, and everyone is busy with their own lives. As I watch them, I suddenly feel very calm. I once gave up my life and wasted my youth for someone who wasn't worth it. Now that I am dead, I have taken back justice in my own way. Next, what I need to do is watch Ethan step by step towards destruction, watching him pay the price for what he has done. "Ethan, your good days are over." Vanessa's farce had barely subsided when Ethan's days at the company became increasingly difficult. I floated beside his desk, watching him sigh at the reports on the computer screen, his fingers tapping on the keyboard for a long time without typing out a few words. The coffee on the desk cooled and reheated and cooled, but he didn't take a sip, his brow furrowed enough to kill a fly. He wasn't like this before. Back then, he had just been promoted, full of vigor. He would arrive at the company early every day, clean his desk until it was spotless, and excitedly discuss projects with colleagues, his eyes shining with enthusiasm. He always told me then that once he landed a few more big projects, he would be promoted to department manager. And then he would get me a bigger house so I wouldn't have to live in that old neighborhood anymore. I believed him, making him a different breakfast every day, watching him leave full of vigor, and then waiting up late into the night to leave a light on for him. But now, those promises have all vanished, and he can barely keep his job. The reason I know so much about his career situation is that I helped him with the initial data collection and proposal framework for the key projects he was responsible for after his promotion. At that time, he always said he was too busy and didn't have time to sort out these trivial things. I felt sorry for him, so I used my evenings to help him research information, create tables, and write draft proposals. When he took what I had done to report to his superiors and received praise, he never mentioned my contribution, only saying that he had stayed up all night to do it. I was so naive back then, thinking that as long as he was doing well, it didn't matter if I made sacrifices. Looking back now, it was like feeding a dog. It was also because of helping him with these things that I discovered the underhanded dealings in his career. Once, he asked me to help him sort out the expense reports for a project, and I found that several large invoices were fake. And some meal and accommodation expenses didn't match the project timeline at all. When I asked him what was going on, he impatiently told me that I didn't understand the rules of the workplace, that these were normal unspoken rules, and told me not to meddle, although I felt it was inappropriate at the time. I didn't dare to ask too much, but I secretly took photos of those fake invoices and expense reports and saved them to my cloud drive. Another time, he was in charge of a project in collaboration with a company from another region, and the person in charge on their end was an old classmate of mine. One day, my old classmate called me, indirectly asking if Ethan had taken a kickback from their company, saying that a benefit fee had been deposited into Ethan's personal account. I was shocked at the time, and after hanging up the phone, I went to ask Ethan. At first, he didn't admit it, but after I pressed him, he confessed to me, saying that he was only temporarily storing it and would return it after the project was completed. I asked him to return the money, but he had a big fight with me, saying that I didn't understand how to be flexible and that if he didn't accept this money, the project couldn't have been secured at all. Helpless, I could only watch him make mistakes, and secretly saved screenshots of my old classmates' chat history and Ethan's account statements. At that time, I still held a glimmer of hope, thinking he was just temporarily muddled and that he wouldn't do these things against the rules once he matured. But I didn't expect that not only would he not restrain himself, but he would become even more reckless. Later, I discovered that in order to steal a colleague's project, he secretly leaked the colleague's proposal to a competitor, and he also slandered that colleague in front of the leader, saying that the other person was incompetent and could not complete the project at all. I kept all these things in my heart, secretly collecting evidence, thinking that if one day he really made a big mistake, this evidence might bring him back to his senses. But now, I don't need him to turn back, I want him to pay the price for what he has done. I floated to my lawyer friend's office and watched her sorting through files. I had mentioned to her before I died that I had collected evidence of Ethan's workplace violations. She told me then that if I wanted, she could help me report it anonymously. I was hesitant then, but now I don't hesitate at all. I looked at my lawyer friend's computer and silently recited the cloud drive account and password. I had given her this information before I died, telling her to handle these things for me if anything ever happened to me. Perhaps it was a telepathic connection, but my lawyer friend suddenly stopped her work and opened the cloud drive client on her computer. Entering the account and password I had given her, when she saw the evidence inside, she frowned, took out her phone and called my parents, asking them if they wanted to report Ethan. I floated beside her, anxious, wanting her to report him quickly, but I couldn't make a sound over the phone. My dad was silent for a long time, then said, "Our daughter is gone, and we didn't want to pursue it anymore, but he did so many things against the rules. If we don't report him, he'll harm more people in the future. Besides, this is probably what our daughter would have wanted. She told me before she died that she hated people who didn't follow the rules the most. Just do as our daughter would have wanted. Report him anonymously, and don't let him know it was us." After hanging up the phone, my lawyer friend took a deep breath and began to organize the evidence. She compiled the photos of the fake invoices, screenshots of the expense reports, Ethan's account statements, my chat history with my old classmate, and the evidence of him leaking his colleague's proposal into a detailed report, and anonymously sent it to the disciplinary inspection department's email of Ethan's company, and also sent a copy to several senior leaders of the company. The moment the whistleblowing letter was sent, I floated next to my lawyer friend, feeling incredibly calm. "Ethan, don't you value your job? Don't you think you're very capable? I want to see if you can still be so arrogant when your scandal is exposed." The morning after the whistleblower letter was sent, Ethan went to work as usual. He had just walked into the office when he was called over by someone from the discipline inspection department. I floated behind him and saw a hint of impatience on his face as he walked into the discipline inspection office, thinking it was just a routine conversation. But when the people from the discipline inspection department put the whistleblower materials in front of him, his face instantly turned pale, and the briefcase in his hand fell to the ground with a thud. What's going on? Who framed me?" Ethan picked up the evidence, his hands trembling uncontrollably, his voice becoming frantic. The disciplinary inspection department said coldly, "Ethan, the evidence is very clear: false invoices, false expense reports, accepting bribes, and leaking company secrets. Each of these can be verified. Now the company's senior management attaches great importance to this matter and has asked us to conduct a serious investigation. You should confess honestly and strive for leniency." Ethan slumped in his chair, muttering, "It wasn't me. I didn't do any of this. Someone framed me. Someone is deliberately trying to get me. We will investigate to find out if you did it," the disciplinary inspection department said. "Now, please cooperate with our work and hand over your mobile phone and computer for us to check. In addition, starting today, you will be suspended from work pending the investigation results." Ethan had no choice but to hand over his phone and computer. When he walked out of the discipline inspection office, his face was as white as a sheet, and he was staggering. The colleagues in the office all looked at him, their eyes full of curiosity and contempt. Several colleagues who used to have a good relationship with him deliberately avoided his gaze. I floated beside him, watching his disheveled appearance, and felt an indescribable sense of satisfaction. Didn't you like to climb up by stepping on others? Didn't you like to play petty tricks? Now you know fear. Too late. In the days that followed, Ethan went to the company every day to be investigated. People from the discipline inspection department spoke with clients and colleagues who had worked with him to verify the situation. Those colleagues who had been bullied by him in the past now stood up and exposed his past misdeeds. Some said he had taken their projects. Others said he had slandered them behind their backs, and still others said he often inflated expenses to take petty advantages of the company. I floated at the investigation scene, listening to those colleagues' accusations, and sneered inwardly. Ethan, you made too many enemies usually, and now that you're down, everyone is pushing you. You brought this on yourself. You used to rely on your power to run rampant in the company, not taking others seriously. Now it's your turn to be unlucky. Who will help you? What broke Ethan down even more was that the out-of-town company that had bribed him, in order to protect itself, proactively provided Ethan's company with transfer records and chat logs, proving that Ethan had indeed accepted kickbacks. The colleague to whom he had leaked the plan also produced evidence proving that Ethan had leaked the plan to a competitor. With the evidence conclusive, Ethan could no longer deny it. On the day the investigation results were released, the company held a general meeting of all employees. At the meeting, the head of the discipline inspection department announced the decision regarding Ethan's handling. Because Ethan was involved in multiple serious violations such as using public office for personal gain, accepting bribes, and leaking company secrets, causing significant losses to the company, the company's senior management decided to terminate the employment contract with Ethan and reserve the right to pursue his legal responsibility. The moment the decision was announced, the entire conference room erupted in an uproar. Colleagues all looked at Ethan with contempt and schadenfreude in their eyes. Ethan stood in the corner of the conference room, his face pale, his head lowered almost to his chest. He probably hadn't expected that the work he was so proud of would end in such a way. After the meeting, Ethan packed up his belongings. There wasn't anything valuable on his desk, just a photo frame with a picture of us when we first got together. In the photo, we were smiling happily. Back then, he had a sparkle in his eyes. Unlike the greasy and indifferent person he is now, he picked up the photo frame, looked at it for a long time, and then slammed it on the ground. The glass frame shattered into several pieces, and the photo was torn. I floated beside him, watching him smash our photo, feeling not a shred of sadness, only relief. That photo carried 5 years of my youth and love, and also witnessed my foolishness and humbleness. Now that it's broken, that's fine. Just like my feelings for him, completely shattered, never to be restored, Ethan walked out of the company building in a disheveled state, carrying a cardboard box full of personal belongings. The sunlight was dazzling, but he instinctively shielded his eyes, as if he hadn't seen the sun in a long time. In the past, when he left the company, he always held his head high, chatting and laughing with colleagues, but now he was like a stray dog, head down, afraid to look at anyone. I floated beside him, watching him wander aimlessly down the street. He didn't know where to go. He was afraid of running into Vanessa at home, and afraid of being rejected if he went to a friend's house. He took out his phone, scrolled through his contacts, but eventually put it back in his pocket. He probably understood that those so-called friends only valued his position and money, and now that he had nothing, those friends had naturally scattered, walking to a bus stop. Ethan squatted on the ground, hugging his head, crying like a child. Passers-by looked at him with strange eyes, some pointing, some taking out their phones to take pictures. He used to care most about how others saw him, but now he couldn't care less, just crying, his cries full of regret and despair. I floated in front of him, watching him coldly. Ethan, so now you know how to cry. You cried when you lost your job, but where were you when I lost my life? Where were you when I was lying in the hospital bed, dying in pain? You abandoned me for your job, for your money. Now you've lost your job, lost your money, and you regret it. It's too late. After crying for a long time, Ethan slowly stood up, wiped away his tears, picked up the cardboard box, and slowly walked towards home. When he got to the building in his neighborhood, he hesitated for a long time before slowly going upstairs. He opened the door to a messy living room. Still in the same state as when he and Vanessa had last argued, Vanessa wasn't home. She probably felt he had no more use, and had packed her things and left long ago. Ethan placed the cardboard box on the floor and walked over to the sofa to sit down. He picked up his phone from the table, wanting to call Vanessa, but found that he had already been blacklisted by Vanessa. He then wanted to call a friend to borrow money, but after searching through his contacts, he couldn't find anyone willing to help him. He slumped on the sofa, looking at the empty living room, and suddenly burst into laughter. The laughter filled with desolation and despair. I floated in the center of the living room, watching his manic state, without a trace of sympathy in my heart. This is the consequence of your betrayal, Ethan. You lost the person who loved you, the job you were so proud of, the so-called friends, and in the end, all that's left is an empty house and a reputation of infamy. This is all your own doing. You can't blame anyone else. In the evening, I floated to my parents' house. They were watching TV, a comedy, but they didn't seem to be smiling. My mom was holding my photo, wiping away tears every now and then. I floated beside them, watching them looking so haggard. And I felt terrible. Mom and Dad, I'm sorry for making you suffer, but don't worry, Ethan has received his just desserts, and you can live in peace from now on. A lawyer friend is also at my parents' house, and she is telling my dad about Ethan's dismissal. My dad sighed after hearing this. It's a sin. How could a good person become like this? If he had known to cherish things earlier, he wouldn't have ended up like this. My lawyer friend said, Uncle, these are all his own choices. He chose money and power in the beginning, and gave up true feelings. Now he should bear the consequences. This may be a lesson for him. And hopefully he can turn over a new leaf in the future. My mom wiped away her tears and said, whether it's changed or not, it doesn't matter to us anymore. I just hope my daughter can rest in peace in heaven and not worry about these things anymore. I floated beside them, tears streaming down my face. Mom and Dad, I am at peace. Seeing Ethan get his retribution brings me such relief. My only wish now is that you can take good care of yourselves, forget the unpleasant things, and enjoy your remaining years in peace. Ethan's life had been a mess ever since he was fired from the company. He looked for work everywhere, but because of the stain of workplace scandal, no company was willing to hire him. The money in his hand was getting less and less, and he had to sell his famous watches and suits for living expenses. In the past, he always looked down on those who squeezed buses and ate instant noodles. But now he had to squeeze buses every day and eat instant noodles every meal. Once, I floated to a job market and saw Ethan pitching himself to a recruiter. He was wearing a faded shirt, his hair was messy, and his face was full of fatigue. After the recruiter read his resume, he frowned and said, Mr. Chen, we have learned about your situation. You have had violations in your previous company, and our company cannot hire you. Ethan hurriedly said, I know I've made mistakes before, but I've changed. I really need this job now. Please give me a chance. The recruiter shook his head and said, opportunity favors the prepared, and also those of good character. When you made your mistake, why didn't you think about today? With that, he turned and left. Ethan stood there, watching the back of the recruiter, his eyes filled with despair. I floated beside him, sneering inwardly. Ethan, those rules you once looked down upon have now become shackles that bind you. The character you once disdained has now become a stumbling block in your job search. This is retribution, the bitter fruit you planted with your own hands. I know that Ethan's hard days are yet to come. Having lost his job, his money, and his friends, he will soon taste the bitterness of being abandoned by everyone. And I will be watching all along, watching him pay the most painful price for his indifference and greed. This is not just for revenge, but to make him understand that one cannot be too selfish or too indifferent in life, or sooner or later they will be punished. The sky outside the window is dark again. I float above the city, watching the lights of thousands of homes below. Behind each light, there is a warm home. I once had such a dream, wanting a warm home with Ethan, but he destroyed my dream with his own hands. Now, although I can't have such a home, I have used my own way to get justice and let those who have been hurt like me see hope. Ethan, your retribution isn't over yet. After the recruiting officer from the job fair turned and left, Ethan was still standing there, like a frostbitten stalk of wheat. People came and went around him, the sounds of footsteps, conversations, and the recruiter's calls mixed together, creating a lively atmosphere, but none of it had anything to do with him. He looked down at his faded shirt and touched the few dozen yuan left in his pocket, his throat feeling like it was blocked with cotton. Unable to swallow or spit it out, I floated beside him, watching him walk out of the job market in a daze. The sun outside was scorching, making the ground feel like it was burning. But he seemed oblivious, walking forward aimlessly. Passing a convenience store, he stopped, stared at the bread in the glass cabinet, and swallowed his saliva. After hesitating for a long time, he still didn't go in. He wouldn't have even given a second thought to bread that cost over 10 yuan before, but now he doesn't even have the courage to buy it. Walking to the bus stop, he took out his phone to check the route home, only to find that the phone had run out of battery and shut down automatically. He irritably put the phone back in his pocket, squatted in the shade of the platform, and held his head in silence. An old man picking up bottles next to him, seeing his plight, handed him an unopened bottle of mineral water. He was stunned for a moment, took the water, and said in a hoarse voice, "Thank you." This was probably the first time anyone had been so kind to him since he fell into despair. I watched him unscrew the bottle and gulp down more than half of it, without a trace of sympathy in my heart. In the past, when he saw beggars on the street, he would always frown and avoid them, saying they were pretending to be pitiful to cheat money. When he saw old people picking up scraps, he would complain to me, saying, if a person has no ability, they have no dignity when they get old. Now that he has fallen to this point, he knows what it feels like to be given alms, and how cheap dignity is in the face of survival. It was dark when Ethan slowly walked home. The motion sensor light in the stairwell had been broken for a long time, leaving it pitch black. He groped his way up. Accidentally, wincing in pain, opening the door to his apartment, he found the living room still in a mess. Several leftover instant noodle containers sat on the dining table, already spoiled and emitting a foul odor. Too lazy to clean up, he went straight to the bedroom, flopped onto the bed, and stared blankly at the ceiling. Just then, the doorbell rang suddenly. Ethan was taken aback, thinking Vanessa was back, and a glimmer of hope surged in his heart. He quickly got up to open the door, but when he opened the door, it wasn't Vanessa standing there, but two uniformed police officers. His heart skipped a beat, and he had a bad feeling. "Excuse me, are you Mr. Ethan?" one of the police officers asked. Ethan nodded, his voice trembling. "Yes, that's me." "What's this about?" The police officer showed his badge and said, "We received a report that you are suspected of accepting bribes and need to come back to the police station with us to assist in the investigation." Accepting bribes, Ethan's face turned pale instantly. "I already returned the money. It wasn't intentional. They gave it to me voluntarily. Whether it was intentional or not, we will investigate thoroughly. Please cooperate with our work." The police officer's tone was stern. Ethan had no choice but to go with the police. I floated behind them, watching him being taken into the police car. As the police car started, he looked out the window, his eyes filled with fear and despair. I sneered inwardly, "Ethan, this is the consequence of you taking bribes. You thought returning the money would make everything okay. Some mistakes, once made, you have to bear the consequences. It can't be excused with a simple 'I didn't mean to.'" After being taken to the police station, Ethan was questioned for an entire night. He confessed to accepting bribes, filing false expense reports, and leaking company secrets. He even cried and begged the police to be lenient. However, the police told him that his actions were already suspected of being illegal, and the company also stated that they would pursue his legal responsibility, so the matter would not be easily resolved. The next morning, Ethan was allowed to make a call to find someone to bail him out. He went through his contacts and finally thought of a distant cousin who used to come to him for help whenever he got promoted, and he always readily agreed. He thought his cousin would help him this time. But when he called, His cousin's tone immediately changed when he heard that he was suspected of accepting bribes and had been arrested. My cousin said, "Xiao Chen, it's not that I don't want to help you, it's just that I'm also tight on money lately, and if I get involved in this kind of illegal thing, it might implicate my whole family. You should ask someone else. I really can't help you." After saying that, he hung up the phone in a hurry. Ethan called his former good buddies again. But either no one answered, or if they did, they hung up with various excuses as soon as they heard it was him. One brother who used to drink and party with him even told him directly, "Ethan, we are not on the same path anymore. Now that you're in this situation, don't come dragging us down." I floated beside him, listening to him being rejected again and again, watching him go from full of hope to utter despair, and I couldn't help but feel relieved. Weren't you very righteous? Didn't you have a lot of good brothers? Now that you're in trouble, where are they? Those who used to call you brother and spend lavishly with you are now avoiding you like the plague. Is this what you call friendship? Finally, Ethan had no choice but to call my parents. When they answered, he cried and said to my dad, "Uncle, I was wrong. I was really wrong. I'm at the police station now, arrested for allegedly accepting bribes. Can you please come and bail me out? I will definitely be a good person and repay you in the future." My dad was silent on the phone for a long time, and finally said, "Xiao Chen, our daughter treated you like that, but you treated her like this. We didn't want to interfere with your affairs anymore, but seeing you in this state, we really can't bear it. Wait, I'll discuss it with your aunt." After hanging up the phone, my parents discussed it with their lawyer friend for a long time. The lawyer friend said, "Uncle, auntie, you can bail him out, but his behavior is already suspected of being illegal. Even if he is bailed out, he will still have to bear legal responsibility in the future. Moreover, given his current situation, even if he is bailed out, he may not be able to turn over a new leaf." My mom wiped her tears and said, "Old Chen, why don't we just help him? No matter what, he was with our daughter for 5 years, even if he's not a good person. We can't just watch him being locked up in the police station." My dad sighed and said, "Okay, let's help him this one last time. But I want to make it clear to him that this is the last time we help him, and we will never interfere with his affairs again in the future." Afterward, my dad took the money to the police station to bail out Ethan. When Ethan came out of the police station and saw my dad, he knelt down with a thump and cried, "Uncle, thank you for saving me. I will be a good person from now on and never do anything illegal again." My dad helped him up and said with a serious face, "Xiao Chen, I'm helping you not because you're worth helping, but because of my daughter. I hope you can remember this lesson and be a good person in the future. And don't do those illegal and undisciplined things again. This is the last time. We will never take care of your affairs again." Ethan nodded repeatedly. "I'll remember. I'll definitely remember. Thank you, Uncle." I floated around them, watching Ethan's grateful appearance, and sneered inwardly, saying, "You'll remember the lesson now. What were you doing before? If my parents weren't soft-hearted, you'd still be locked up in the police station. But I know that people like him won't easily turn over a new leaf, and this lesson may not be enough to completely awaken him." My dad took Ethan home and saw the mess in his house. He sighed and helped him clean up a bit. Before leaving, my dad gave him 500 yuan and said, "Take this money for living expenses, find a decent job, and stop messing around." Ethan took the money and started crying again, saying he would definitely find a good job, but I knew he wasn't in the mood to look for a job at all. After my dad passed away, he took the 500 yuan, first bought a bunch of food at the convenience store, and then spent 2 days and 2 nights at the internet cafe. When the money was gone, he began to worry again. Not knowing how to live on, one day, he suddenly thought of Vanessa. He felt that although Vanessa loved money, she had been with him for so long, so she must have some feelings for him and might be able to help him. He inquired about Vanessa's whereabouts everywhere, and finally found her in a bar. But when he saw Vanessa, he was stunned. Vanessa was holding a middle-aged man's arm, smiling brightly, wearing brand-name clothes, and carrying an expensive bag. Completely different from when she was with him before, Ethan rushed over and grabbed Vanessa's arm. "Vivian, what are you doing here? What is your relationship with him?" Vanessa saw him, the smile on her face instantly vanished, and she his hand with disgust. Ethan, what happened to you? Who I'm with has nothing to do with you. The middle-aged man next to him frowned and looked at Ethan. Who are you? Don't cause trouble here. Ethan pointed at Vanessa and said to the middle-aged man. I'm her boyfriend, stay away from her. Vanessa chuckled. Boyfriend, Ethan, don't flatter yourself. I broke up with you a long time ago. This is my boyfriend, Raymond. As she spoke, she looped her arm through the middle-aged man's and leaned her head on his shoulder. Raymond, this is the jerk I told you about, the one who always used to swindle money from me. The middle-aged man's face darkened, and he called over the bar's security guard. Get this person out of here, and don't let him ruin the mood for me and my girlfriend. The security guard came over and dragged Ethan out. Ethan struggled and shouted at Vanessa. Vanessa, you ungrateful woman, I used to be so good to you, how could you do this to me? Vanessa glanced at him disdainfully. Good to me? When have you ever been good to me? Besides drawing empty promises, what else can you do? Now that you have nothing, you still want to pester me. Dream on. Ethan was dragged out of the bar by security and thrown to the ground. He looked at the bar's entrance, his heart filled with anger and resentment. He got up, wanting to rush in and reason with Vanessa, but was stopped by the security guards. The guards warned him that if he caused any more trouble, they would call the police. Helpless, he could only watch as Vanessa and that middle-aged man intimately walked into the bar's private room. I floated beside him, watching him sit on the ground in a disheveled state, and sneered inwardly. Ethan, this is the woman you love. This is the woman you betrayed me for. She never loved you. But your money and status. Now that you have no money or status, she will naturally climb to higher branches. You thought you found true love, but you only found a gold digger. After returning from the bar, Ethan completely broke down. He smashed everything he could in the house, then curled up on the floor, crying like a lost child. He remembered how good I had been to him, the job I gave up for him, the meals I cooked for him, and the meticulous care I took of him when he was sick. Only now did he realize that I was the one who was truly good to him, but he had pushed me away with his own hands. I'm sorry, he kept muttering my name. I was wrong. I was really wrong. Please come back. I floated in front of him, looking at him coldly. What's the use of saying sorry now? Can I come back? Can I cook you another meal? Can I wait for you to come home again? No, never again. Your current pain is all your own fault. You deserve it. In the days that followed, Ethan lived in even more dire straits. He couldn't afford to pay his rent and was evicted by the landlord, leaving him to sleep under a bridge. He had no money for food and had to survive on leftovers from trash cans. The once spirited department head was now a disheveled, ragged homeless man. Once, I drifted under a bridge arch and saw him huddled in a corner, covered with a tattered newspaper, shivering. Several homeless people were playing cards nearby, and when they saw him, they mocked him. Oh, isn't this the former chief supervisor Chen? How have you been reduced to sleeping under a bridge with us? Ethan buried his head in his knees, afraid to speak. He used to care most about his image, but now he doesn't even have the most basic dignity. I looked at him, feeling not a shred of sympathy, only satisfaction. This is the consequence of you betraying me and trampling on my feelings, Ethan. You've lost everything, and all that's left is regret and despair, and you brought it all on yourself. One day, my parents went to the supermarket to buy groceries and saw Ethan while passing by the bridge opening. My mom recognized him and was so shocked that she almost cried out. My dad was also stunned, not expecting him to end up in such a state. Ethan saw my parents and quickly buried his head, not daring to look at them. My mother is soft-hearted and wanted to go give him some money, but my father stopped her. My father said, "Don't go, we already helped him once, and he didn't cherish it. He became like this because of his own choices. We can't control him, and we shouldn't interfere anymore." My mom sighed, nodded, and hurried away with my dad. I floated beside them, watching their backs, and felt very touched. Mom and Dad, you did the right thing. People like Ethan are not worth any sympathy. Your kindness should be given to those who truly need help. Ethan, since my parents saw him in his destitute state, has become even more insecure. He no longer dared to stay in that bridge hole and had to find another place to continue his vagrant life. His former colleagues and friends would occasionally see him on the street, Some would look at him as if he were a monster, while others would secretly take pictures and post them on social media, mocking his fate. I floated beside him, watching him grow more haggard and desperate day by day. I knew that his abandonment by all was of his own making. For money and power, he betrayed love. For profit, he sold out friends. For promotion, he violated rules. He pushed himself step by step into the abyss, and now he has finally fallen to pieces. I once hated him, hated his indifference, hated his betrayal, hated his cruelty, but now, watching him fall to this state, the hatred in my heart slowly dissipated, leaving only calm. He has already received the most painful retribution, and my revenge should also come to an end. I floated to my parents' house, watching them cooking. My mom was washing vegetables, and my dad was chopping them, the two of them talking and laughing. Although there was still a trace of sadness from losing their daughter on their faces, it was much better than before. I floated beside them, watching them, feeling very at peace. Mom and Dad, you must live well and see this world for me. As for Ethan, his hard days are far from over. He has lost love, lost friendship, lost his job, lost his dignity, and even lost the hope of living. He will slowly spend the rest of his life in endless regret and despair. This is the most painful price he has paid for what he has done. I know that in this world, there is no love without reason, and no hatred without cause. You reap what you sow. Ethan sowed the seeds of indifference and betrayal, and he was bound to reap the fruit of being abandoned by everyone. And me, although I lost my life, I used my own way to get justice. And also let those who were hurt like me see the existence of justice. Ethan, your retribution continues, but I don't want to watch anymore. I want to let go of the past and take good care of my parents, watching them enjoy their later years in peace. As for you, take care of yourself. As autumn deepens, the leaves on the streets fall to the ground, rustling underfoot. I float above the city, watching the pedestrians coming and going below, my heart as still as a lake. Since Ethan became homeless, I rarely deliberately follow him anymore, only occasionally catching a glimpse of his huddled figure when passing by bridge openings or garbage cans. That day, I accompanied my mother to the park for square dancing and saw a group of people gathered by the roadside, talking about something. My mother was curious and pulled me over there. As we got closer, we realized that the person lying in the middle of the crowd was actually Ethan. His face was pale, his lips were chapped, and he was covered with an old military coat. He was no longer breathing. A uniformed police officer was standing nearby, calling the funeral home. When my mom saw it was him, she swayed a bit, and tears immediately fell. What a tragedy. How could he just disappear like this? My dad rushed over from behind, held my mom, and sighed. This is the path he chose himself. He can't blame anyone else. The people around me chattered. Some saying he starved to death, some saying he froze and got sick with no one to care for him, and others saying they saw him begging on the street a few days ago and getting beaten up by some young thugs. I floated nearby, listening to the discussion, feeling not a ripple in my heart, neither sad nor vindicated. As if watching the end of a stranger's life, the police contacted Ethan's family, but his parents had long since passed away. A distant cousin, upon hearing of his death, simply said understood over the phone and hung up, never bothering to come. Ultimately, the community had to step in, contacting the funeral home to cremate him. His ashes are temporarily stored in the funeral home's columbarium, waiting for someone to claim them. I followed the funeral home's vehicle, watching them load Ethan's body into the car. As the car started, I took one last look at him. His face was devoid of the spiritedness he once had, and the despair of his downfall was gone, replaced by utter stillness. I suddenly remembered when we first got together, he was sitting in a car just like this, holding my hand, saying he would take me to see the most beautiful scenery. Back then, his eyes sparkled, and he had me in his heart, but later, he lost that light, and he lost me too. On the day of the cremation, only my parents and a lawyer friend went. My dad looked at Ethan's urn and sighed. Xiao Chen, you lived a muddled life. If you see our daughter over there, apologize to her properly. My mom wiped away tears and placed a bouquet of chrysanthemums in front of the urn. Our daughter always said that if you could change your temper, you would be a good man. It's a pity that you never understood in the end. I floated beside them, watching the small urn, and suddenly felt a sense of relief. Ethan, you finally don't have to suffer anymore, or live in regret. The grievances of this life end here. I once hated you, resented you, but now, those emotions have all dissipated. Just like you said, if we could do it all over again, you definitely wouldn't treat me like that. But life doesn't have a redo button, and some mistakes, once made, can only be repaid with a lifetime. After returning from the funeral home, my parents were in much better spirits. They no longer spent their days in tears as they used to, but instead began to learn to live well. My mom goes to the park every morning to do square dancing and has made many new friends. My dad has become fond of fishing and spends a few hours by the river every day, returning in the evening to make my mom her favorite braised fish. Gradually, smiles returned to their faces. Lawyer friends also often came to see them, bringing them some fruit and supplements, and chatting with them. Once, the lawyer friend told my parents that the money I donated had helped many cancer patients, including several children who had recovered and been discharged from the hospital because they received timely treatment. My mother listened and said with a smile, "Our daughter has done a good deed, and she will be very happy when she sees it in heaven." I floated beside them, watching them talk and laugh, and my heart felt very warm. Mom and Dad, you are right. I am very happy. In my own way, I have helped those who suffer like me, and I have made a small contribution to this world. Although I can no longer be with you, I feel at ease seeing you doing well. One night, I had a dream. In it, I went back to when we first got together. We lived in a small basement apartment, and he made instant noodles for me, giving me the only egg. I looked at him, smiled, and said, "Ethan, if you ever become successful, will you forget me?" He hugged me and said, "No, I will never forget you in this lifetime. I will treat you well and give you the best life." When I woke up from the dream, I was floating in my parents' bedroom, watching them sleep peacefully. The moonlight streamed in through the window, falling on them, warm and gentle. I knew that dream was my farewell to the past and my forgiveness of him. "Ethan, in the next life, if you can meet me again, you must treat me well and never let me suffer again." Days passed, and more tall buildings rose in the city. The streets became more and more prosperous. But those people and things from the past were gradually forgotten. No one remembers the spirited department head Ethan anymore, nor does anyone remember me, who gave everything for love. But I know that some things will never be forgotten. My parents will remember that they had a kind daughter. The patients I helped will remember an anonymous donor, and Ethan, in another world, will remember that he once owed someone. I still float in this city, accompanying my parents, watching them enjoy their old age. I watch the flowers bloom in spring, the cicadas chirp in summer, the leaves fall in autumn, and the snow fall in winter. I watch this world get better and better every day, and my heart is full of hope. Sometimes, I think of Ethan and the 5 years we spent together. Those days were filled with sweetness, bitterness, laughter, and tears. Although the ending wasn't perfect, I don't regret it, because those experiences made me grow and helped me understand what true love is and what true life is. Love is not a one-sided, pinyin, lit, giving, nor a blind sacrifice, but two people cherishing each other, supporting each other, and facing the storms of life together. Unfortunately, Ethan understood this too late. As for me, although I lost my life, I found the meaning of life. I used my own way to prove the value of kindness, and also let those betrayals and indifference receive their due retribution. Dust settles, each to their own path. Ethan paid the price for his mistakes with his life, and I, though I have left this world, will live forever in the hearts of those who love me. I know this is the best ending. The sunlight outside the window is just right. I float on the balcony, watching my mom watering the flowers and my dad handing her water beside her. Their smiles are as warm as the sunlight. I gently said, "Mom, Dad, I love you." Then, I slowly dissipated into the sunlight. I know I can leave with peace of mind because I know they will live well, carrying my love, and live well. Alright, that's the end of today's story. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe. We'll keep updating with more exciting stories, and we look forward to seeing you next time.